Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in tonight to Channel 9.5 News. Tonight we have a very special story that pertains to not just our city but also the country as a whole. Tonight we're going to be talking about poverty and income distribution.
So there's really a lot of misconceptions or stereotypes regarding poverty, and we really want to kind of explain what poverty is. And by definition, poverty is when a family or individual is living with an income that is less than enough to satisfy their needs and their family's needs. And the concept of income distribution is how income is distributed through America without considering the effects of government aid, such as housing subsidies, healthcare, etc.
People are considered poor if their income is below the poverty threshold, which is the minimum amount of money they need to sustain their family and themselves. In a few moments, you'll be taken to our news team who's on the field, is going to be interviewing people from both sides of the spectrum.
Hello, sir. I was wondering if maybe we could have a little conversation. So, where would you put yourself on the spectrum of wealth?
Well, if the scale's on like a 1 to 98, I'd probably say probably like a 2. But lately it's been more like a 2.5 because I found my other shoe. That's pretty great.
Alright. So, what is your job and what is your income? And is that enough to support you and potentially a family if you have a family?
Well, I'm a sign flipper for this really cool banana company. It's called Bananas. And it's not really that great because I only work 2 days a week, and I get paid like a cent under minimum wage, which kind of sucks. And I have 2 kids because my wife divorced me, and it's really hard to support them and me because I barely make enough to support for just me. So that's, it's pretty great.
All right, so you would say those are your pretty much all the causes of poverty, or would you say that there's more?
I feel like something else kind of put me in this position is my lack of education. I dropped out of high school, and I had a pretty good job going for a little bit, but then my wife divorced me, like I said, and sorry. And so after that, I had to find a new job, and it was really rough, and no one wanted to hire me, and I feel like they really discriminated against me because I didn't complete high school, and that, because I didn't really like school that much. People bullied me a lot.
So you would say that you're definitely below the poverty threshold, which is having enough income to support you and your family, and therefore the government would consider you as poor.
Definitely.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Jed, where do you consider yourself to be on a spectrum of wealth?
If the spectrum goes from 0 being the worst to 100 being the best, I'd say I'm probably around 98.
Well, that's definitely not bad.
It is, it's pretty nice.
So what is your job and what is your income, and is that obviously sufficient to support your family?
So I am an open heart surgeon on exotic animals. So let's say you have a wealthy Russian billionaire who owns 8 leopards, and one of those leopards needs surgery. I'm the one who does it. So you get paid quite a lot. And yeah, it's been enough to treat me and my family very well. We live in a very nice home, have a very nice car, and
Yes.
we're able to go on vacation and do pretty much whatever we want.
So what has contributed to this success? How are you able to get there?
I would say through my education, going to medical school, through the connections of people I know that led me to not go into human surgery but into animal surgery. those were probably the two biggest factors that went into it.
And so, what are your thoughts on the American dream then?
I think the American dream is a wonderful thing. I grew up in a fairly low income home with a single mom. Dad left at the age of 13, and we didn't have much growing up. But I went to high school, got a scholarship, went to college, and now I'm a wealthy billionaire. So I think the American dream is definitely possible.
All right, thank you.
No problem.
Here we are with the two guys again talking about government aid and income distribution. How do you feel about being in the wealthiest 20% of Americans who receive 50% of the nation's total income?
I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. I get to kind of sit back and I do a lot of hard work. You know, I'm a businessman. I got a lot of things in the works, but it gives me the opportunity to kind of relax sometimes and enjoy life.
Cool. The government doesn't seek to evenly distribute wealth, but it does aim to help the poor. What are your thoughts about the U.S. economic policy to help the poor achieve the goal of equity and the pros and cons?
So I've worked to build this life that I have. And then the government comes in and it's like, hey, we're going to take a bunch of your money to give to these poor people and we're going to tax you. That doesn't seem fair to me. I feel like I made it, anyone else can make it. So why are they taking my money to give to poor people? I don't like that. That's all cons. It also makes those people dependent on the government. Because if the government is now giving these people all this money and that's what they're relying on to live, what happens when the government runs out of money and they can no longer supply that to them? They're just going to be even poorer than when they started. So I don't really see how it's going to, in the long term, help them. It's just going to make them reliant on the government and those programs.
Well, that does seem like a personal problem, but what are your thoughts about the government taking the income tax and lifting that from 4 million people, raising them above the poverty line? I mean, that seems like a pretty big deal.
Maybe, but it has no effect on me. So why should I care?
And here you have another opinion. Okay. The government doesn't seek to evenly distribute wealth, but it does aim to help the poor. What are your thoughts about U.S. economic policy to help the poor achieve the goals of equity, or the pros and cons?
It's all pros. Like, there aren't that many cons to government assistance. I mean, look at me now. I'm in a much better situation than I was 3 months ago.
Obviously.
Yeah. And I confronted my boss, and I finally got minimum wage, which is that's amazing. I can't believe that happened. And temporary assistance for needy families is really helpful, really beneficial, and I feel like I get a lot out of it. Workers' comp is great too. When I got hit by a car. And I couldn't work, and I got money for that, which is awesome. Yay, workers' comp. And food stamps are really where it's at. Food stamps are really the only way that I'm able to eat and provide for my family, which is awesome.
That's good. Well, we appreciate you spending part of your day with us on 9.5 News, and we hope to see you back here tomorrow. Thank you.